Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create multi-portrait photo effects with Photoshop, and we are starting right now. The very first thing we need to do is to go ahead and select our template. In this case, I'm going to be using 1920 by 1080 pixels, and for the resolution, I will make it to be 640. And once I've done that, I'll go ahead and hit on create. Once we have our canvas like this, firstly, I'll go ahead and bring in the background. In this case, it's going to be this photo right here. I will increase the size to make it fit my selected canvas, and once it's perfectly fit, I'll go ahead and hit on the good sign. And what I can possibly do, I always like to be organized with my work. In this case, I'm going to name this to background, and once I've done that, I'll come back to the adjustment layer and come back to the levels. In this case, I want to add some contrast like this, and at the same time reduce some of the highlights on the background just like this. You can still go ahead again and reduce the midtones just like this, and always remember to clip the adjustment layer to the layer in question. And once I have my background, now I can go ahead and bring in the main subject of our design. In this case, it's going to be this man right here. Firstly, I'll go ahead and hit on the good sign. And once I've done that, I will come back to the quick selection tool and select the subject. Wait for Photoshop to do their work, and once it's been selected, I will come back to the layer mask and mask it out. And again, I will come back to the layer in question and rename it just to be organized. And now I want to come back to the adjustment and select levels. Always clip it to the layer in question. I want to add some contrast like this, reduce some of the highlights, increase contrast one more, and the mid-tone as well, just like this. And again, I can go ahead to the adjustment layer. In this case, I'm going to be selecting curve. Just as we did before, I will clip it to the layer in question and reduce the highlights just like this. Once I have it like this, I can come back to the levels again, and this time around, I'm going to be selecting the layer mask. And once I hit on the mask, I'm going to take my brush tool by hitting on B, okay, and I can increase the size of my canvas by hitting Ctrl+0. And now I want to reduce the size of my soft brush, and I want to make this part to be very bright face just like this. And the neck as well, this part I can increase the size to this part, make this side to be very bright. Okay, the neck, face, decrease the size of my brush, and this part right here I want to make it to be very bright as well. This part just to make it more bright, and increase the face as well. Okay, now we have some shadow already, and what I can possibly do right now is to come back to the layer mask of this subject, still having the brush tool. This time around, we are going to be using the hard round brush, and once I hit on the brush, firstly I want to increase the size. Once you have it like something like this, increase the opacity and remove some of the parts of the man just like this. If you feel that it's too low, you can always hit on Ctrl+Z to undo your work, and this time around, make the brush to be at the top and just like this. You can always hit on Ctrl+Z to undo your work. Hit like this, you're going to have this type of effect. Once you have your effect like this, the next thing you need to do is to go ahead and bring in the make handle. In this case, it's going to be this photo right here. I'll go ahead and hit on the good sign and come back to the quick selection tool and select the subject. Wait a little bit, and once the subject is selected, I'll come back to the layer mask and mask it at Ctrl+0. I still need to go ahead and rename my layer just to be organized. Selecting the move tool, I want to increase this size of the candle just like this, and at the same time I want to decrease the opacity. You can still go ahead and decrease the size just like this, okay, and make it fit to the face, something like this. Okay, something like this is going to, I can still go ahead and decrease the size a little bit, place it first just like this. Can we still increase the size once more? Right now it's going to be something like this. I go ahead and hit on the good sign, and on the candle layer you want to hit on the layer mask, take your brush tool and erase this part right here, erase to this part. And now I want to increase the opacity of the candle, and I want to select the soft round brush this time around and decrease the size of the brush. The opacity right now can be 100%. Firstly, you want to remove the sharp edges just like this. This part, decrease the size of the brush and remove these sharp edges, this as well. And now I can decrease the opacity of my brush to be like 40 or 30 something and increase the size of my brush. This time around, I want to blend this candle to the face of this model. Okay, this is the part you just need to be careful so that you will not overdo. I can as well decrease the opacity to like 20%, and again erase this part, erase this part, color over this part, all over that. Move this part, decrease the size of my brush. I can increase opacity a little bit to be like 30 this time around, and sharpening this part right here. This part well, this part. Just gotta be careful on this part, but there is no rule doing this. Just make the nose to be very sharp. Okay, but this part. Okay, perfect, fit and perfect, just like this. Okay, what I can possibly do is to select this layer right here, the main object, and come out to the layer mask and remove some of these parts that we are not going to be using. Hitting on B and remove this part that we are not going to need it in this our design. In this case, I can even increase my opacity to be like 100 or 90 something and remove this 1/3 part, and that's here. You can leave it, but I don't just want this effect to have that part. Okay, just want it to be straight candle. And once I have it like this, now I can go ahead and select this candle in question and come over to the adjustment layer and select levels. Always clip it to the layer in question, and I want to add some contrast to the candle just like this. And once we have it like this, the next thing we can possibly do is to bring in our candle flame, and it's going to be this one right here. I'm gonna hit on the good sign and come over to the blending mode, and this time around I want to select screen, place it in a way it's going to feel some natural, going to be more natural. Ctrl+1, hold it down the shift to resize it, hold down the shift once more, and again increase the size once, just like this. Okay, something like this. Okay, increase the size once more. Okay, perfect, like this is perfect. And right now I still want to go ahead and rename my layer to be flame. And what I can do is to go ahead and add a layer mask. Select the layer mask and take your brush tool by hitting on B. I can even go ahead and increase the size by holding down the Alt and right click and drag to your right side. This time around I want to remove these parts. Okay, go ahead and remove these parts. Ctrl+0, this third part, decrease the size of my brush, remove this part, decrease the opacity, and try to blend these parts to the other beacon. It's not blending well. Go ahead and increase the opacity to like 50. You're gonna have to like this since it's effort. Okay, like this. Okay, and now the next thing we can do is to bring in our drippy candle wax. It's gonna be something of this nature. You wanna hit on good sign, and it's already renamed, but in this case I can just say something like wax just to differentiate this part from all other layers. And now I want to select my lasso tool and select some of the parts that I might need just to create the drippy effect, something of this nature like this. And once you have the part selected, right click and come over to layer via copy. You're going to have it in a new layer, and I want to come again and repeat the same process. I'll just go ahead and fast forward this process, and I will see you when I'm done. And again, I want to select this one right here, hit the wax and come over to layer via copy. We're going to need at least 5 of it. Now we have just 3. I can still come over to this one right here. Make sure you select the wax and right click layer via copy. Now we have 4. We just need only 1. And in this case I can use this one right here. Select the wax and layer via copy. Now we have the 5 dripping wax, and this main wax right here, we just go ahead and hide it. Take my move tool and I want to place it in a way that can look good, and paste this one right here. I'm going to take this and paste it to the side. This fourth one can make it to be here, darker part. This short one can be something of this nature, and this I can create this one, and as well make this something like this, and shift this one to be. So have it like this. Now I want to hold down the shift and select all the dripping wax layer. I want to go ahead and hit on Ctrl+G to group everything. I can still go ahead and name it wax. And what I can possibly do is to go ahead and hit on layer mask. I want to create a layer mask for this group that I just created, and I want to go ahead and select my brush tool, decrease the size, and I can make it to be like 80 something and let the flow to be like 20 something. And this time around I want to increase the brush size a little bit. I want to blend this to the other candle, and at the same time remove some of the parts just like this. This process is very tedious and I will be skipping the video. The same thing is going to happen to this. Okay, and just resize it with the brush. The same thing is going to this. Just resize the drip wax, and as well remove the sharp edge in this part. So in this one also I will go ahead and the sharp edge as well, all these parts. And the same thing is going to happen to this. Remove the sharp edge Okay, now what we can possibly do is to go ahead and decrease the opacity of this brush right here. I want to go ahead this time around and make it to be like 46. I want to blend the drip to the candle with less sharp opacity, just like this. And once we have it blended with the make candle, what we can possibly do is to go ahead and create adjustment layer. This time around we are going to be selecting color balance. Make sure you clip it to the group, and once we have it like this, now we want to go ahead and increase the yellow of the drips to like this, and go ahead and add some red like this. It's okay like this. And if individually the color are not matching up, what you can possibly do is to select this individually. You can go ahead to color balance and clip it to that layer in question and increase it all yellow just like this, and increase the red something like this. Or I can go ahead and add adjustments level, clip it to the layer. Firstly, add some contrast to the drip, and right now close the group again and come over to the layer mask of the group. Select my brush tool again and increase the opacity to a little bit. This white part, we want to remove it, this white part right here. Okay, as well these parts. Okay, like this is perfect. And even as well, okay, part right here. Okay, sharp. Okay, like this is perfectly okay. And I can even still go ahead, this one right here that look little bright, I can add another levels, clip it to the main layer and add some contrast just like this. And once we have everything like this light right here is not representing the color of this light, but don't worry, there's a trick we are going to use to have this reflection over here and over here. What I can possibly do right now is to go ahead and create a new layer and hit on B to select my brush tool. I want to go ahead and increase the size of my brush tool to something like this. I don't want it to be too sharp, I can make it to be like 40, and I want to color over this face just like this. As well this part, and this part as well, color over the neck. Okay, to be as if the candle is covering the face, something of this nature. And once we have it like this, you can go ahead and press Alt Shift Control plus E so that we have our design on a single layer. And I want to right click and convert it to smart object. This time around I want to go over to filter and come over to camera raw. Here's where the magic and the beauty of our design is going to come out. I want to hit on this double sign, come over to the light. The exposure I want to increase a little bit. The contrast, I want to increase the contrast and remove some highlight, create some shadow, and I don't want to touch the white. The black I want to decrease to make it negative like this. And the color, yes, where we have that invert. The color, the temperature, I want to make it yellow. You can see how the color change immediately from white to yellow. Yes, now the reflection of this lights everywhere and even on it first. Increase it to this point, and the vibrance, we can just leave all of the way they are and come out to the effects, increase the texture and make the clarity to be negative. Positive, it's going to be too white, make it to be negative like this. And it increase the hairs to something of this nature. Vignette is what I love. I want to go ahead and make it negative like this, and I can come back to the details and sharpen the image once more and reduce some of noise just like this is the before and this is the after. You can just go ahead and hit OK. This is it. See the way it turned out to be. This is another version of it again that I created, and this as well is another version of it that I created. I always try to create my work 3 times. This is the first one and this was the second one. And for this video we made this one right here. If you learned something from this video, you feel like you've learned something, you like the video, you can go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so that whenever I upload another video just like this, you will always be the first person to be notified. And having said this, I'm going to see you in the next video. Cheers, peace out.